Now bringing it right back here to New York City, where it has been snowing like crazy. We just had like a snowstorm a week and a half ago or so. It was pretty wild. Had about 12 inches of snow. But then just recently, over the past like 24, 48 hours, give or take, now we've had anywhere from 13 to 17 or 24 to 28 inches of snow, depending on where you reside in New York City or New York State. So it is a crazy snowstorm. There was even a travel ban where cars were not permitted, or sorry, non essential travel was not permitted to be on the roads, bridges, streets, sidewalks from 9 p.m. on Sunday evening, February 22nd, through 12 noon, Monday, February 23rd. So that was a good call. Hopefully, that less people would try to risk travel. It would keep people safe and at home. So I haven't heard of any big stories or any big things, so I'm really hoping that things were safe for folks out there. But at the end of the day, some of us, we still shoveled and make sure that the snow is cleared in the areas around us. And with that said, what was the snow response from Mayor Mamdani? Now, seeing that we just had a snowstorm, right, there was definitely some critiques from the mayor saying like there wasn't enough, there's still snow on the ground long after the snow had stopped, right? Things got icy. What was he doing to combat that? But also, even just having the resources to clear the snow, to make sure there was enough ambulance and those who needed help that could get the care they needed. But even on top of that, right, making sure that if anyone did need extra help or cars were stuck or whatnot, right, that the city could act quickly so people could move and improve mobility throughout the city during the snowstorm. Now, learning from that, just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, whatever it was, fast forward, Mayor Mamdani ramped up his response to the snowstorm. Now, we knew that this was going to produce more snow as a blizzard, right? New York City was in code blue last time around. They were in an enhanced code blue this time around. Hence, the travel ban that took place for non-essential vehicles from Sunday night, February 22nd, into Monday morning, February 23rd. So, with that said, it was a good call by Mamdani to keep people safe at home, but also making sure that only essential travel could take place. Because again, when people, try to risk it, things could happen, and it just causes more harm and doesn't allow for the mobility that our city needs in order to prosper, thrive, but also just to get around and live our lives. One great thing Zohran Mamdani improved upon since the last snowstorm we just had was actually increasing the number of snow removal vehicles, making sure there was a more adept response to the snowstorm, but even more importantly, that there was even more snow shovelers on hand. So part of Zoran's, let's say, mission when first, getting sworn in as mayor of New York City was that he wanted to bring this layer of collectivism. The idea that we can not just build community, but we can leverage our community in order to help each other out. And we saw that very distinctly with this snowstorm where Zohran Mamdani had reached out to the entire public saying, if you want to help shovel snow, we will pay you. Rates were going anywhere from $18 an hour, I think even some as $19 an hour. But even as of yesterday, I saw that even emergency snow shovelers would be considered and given rates of $30 an hour. That's how, I don't want to say desperate, but how urgent the need was for snow shovelers to remove the snow in all parts of the city. Now, some areas are more walkable than others in New York, so having snow shovelers available, very crucial to the mobility of New Yorkers all across the city, especially across all 5 boroughs. So, with that said, really great to see how Zohran ramped up his response. He posted a few videos about it, right? Obviously answering questions from the press. But even on top of that, he even, this time around, what he was criticized for last time is that last time around he had remote learning. He didn't necessarily cancel school or give, New York City students a snow day. This time around, the students were off from school, K through 12 public schools. They did not have to go to school, so they got to have fun in the snow. Good for them. But I guess that's part of it too, right? He listened, learned from his last experience with this, and because we knew there'd be more snow this time around, I think a lot of his calls did satisfy the public in terms of like what they might not have had, what happened last time they weren't exactly on board with or could have wanted more from him. This time around, he definitely delivered. So, seeing that he is like, one of the youngest mayors in history, only within the first 2 months of his administration having to like, mobilize every resource at the city's disposal for snow removal and keeping people safe and healthy, like, and warm. Like, that was a huge undertaking, but I have to say, it was a really good response. Now, I know a lot of Zohran haters, anything he does would never be good enough, so take it with a grain of salt. But for those of us who do, who will hold him accountable for what he could be doing better at, who do understand, like, yes, there's a level of competency and care that I think is required when doing the job. Like, will Zohran rise to the occasion all the time? I think thus far it's very safe to say that Zohran has risen to the occasion and above expectations like 99% of the time since he's been inaugurated only less than 2 months ago. So with that said, right, great to see what Zoran's doing. And I'm very excited to see, or very confident knowing that we will be in good hands thanks to Zohran, especially with a response as rapid and as scalable as he's created for the city this time around. Now, one thing that has a lot of people talking is actually his newest proposed solution. Now, to be clear, it's only a proposal, hasn't happened yet. And this is all coming from the A.B.C. Adams budget crisis. Got to paint the picture and set the stage. Eric Adams created a deficit for New York City to the tune of $12 billion. That means New York City needs to come up with $12 billion in order to pay our bills and keep the lights on and running as a city. Not literally keep the lights on, but like almost literally. So, point is, Adams really, well, we knew he wasn't a good mayor. We knew that through his lack of competence. We knew that through what he cared about and didn't care about. And we also knew from his corruption scandal at the federal level. So, the fact that Eric Adams was a horrible mayor across many, many objectives, I would even say public safety. I mean, yeah, granted, numbers went down, but like, it took, 4 years to figure that out, let alone inflating the NYPD budget, meanwhile cutting all the other budgets, like education and healthcare in the city. So, point being, Adams wasn't good. So now he's left us with this parting gift of $12 billion in the hole. So, Zohran is now tasked with having to not necessarily cut funds, but having to come up with the revenue to pay for the things to pay for all the services and programs that this $12 billion will go toward. So, to do that, there are two solutions. Now, if you recall, Zohran ran on a two-part plan, basically taxing the rich. To pay for a lot of his policy proposals, there was a two-prong approach. The first part was corporate entities. New York City tax law requires any business doing business in New York City, they will be taxed. Right now, they were at a 7.5% tax rate. That would increase to 11%, which is comparable to what's happening in New Jersey. So even if we raise taxes on corporations just by a little bit to match what is going on in New Jersey, ideally, Zohran Mamdani could generate $5 billion in revenue. Corporate entities paying part of their profits, that would then generate $5 billion for the city. So remember, if there's $12 billion shortfall, $5 billion is like, almost half, almost. The second part of that two-prong approach is taxing the rich, particularly residents who make $1 million or more. So that includes the 100 plus billionaires that have a residence in the city. So They currently are taxed at a pretty low tax rate. And all Zohran wants to do is increase that tax rate by 2%. So if you're making $1 million and you get a 2% tax rate increase, right, it generally comes to like another like $20,000. So like, yeah, granted $20,000 is a lot of money, but if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, it's like a drop in the bucket, chump change. So like by that point, it's really not asking much when, millionaires and billionaires could pay their fair share. So like, sure, it's a lot of money for them, but do they need the second yacht? Do they need their third vacation home? Do they need to be able to, be spending money on the finest things like, you know, crazy works of art or the most expensive like wardrobe and jewelry pieces? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially New York City, if you have money, they definitely spend it very lavishly, but also like they definitely sock a lot of it away in like stocks and investments and portfolio and that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, like 2% isn't much. Like, meanwhile, people are like homeless and starving and like dying in the city. So for them to like be asked to pay 2%, like, it's not that hard of a ask. It really just comes to the political will. If they do increase taxes on the rich by 2%, that will also generate about $5 billion. So, $5 billion from corporations, $5 billion from millionaires and billionaires, that could be a great way to generate revenue. So then instead of being down by $12 billion, we'd be down by only $2 billion. Now, granted, corporations and millionaires and taxing millionaires, that revenue would come over time. It wouldn't be an overnight fix, but it would be a really good start. So that would be the most ideal goal where Zohran can have both those plans implemented at the state level, in the state legislature, getting it signed by Kathy Hochul. So then, come New York City, we can tax the rich, both at corporations and millionaires and billionaires, and pay for the programs and the deficit that former Mayor Adams, had left with us. But that's not where we're at right now. Currently, the governor, Kathy Hochul, who doesn't have a primary challenger as of right now, she has decided to not tax the rich. She's been firm about that. And everyone's been firm about something, they've all changed their mind. So like, yes, she's firm about it, but I believe she could be swayed. How do I know that? If anyone remembers her congestion pricing debacle, she was gung ho, ready to implement congestion pricing. Then all of a sudden, she had her little conversation with a few people at a local diner. And then she says, "Oh, we're not going to do it. We're going to postpone that." And then she did. Not only did she like throw a wrench in the gear, she literally, prevented prevented their state from generating like billions of dollars in revenue that was already earmarked not only for the MTA to generate that revenue, and not MTA being the subway, but the MTA, which would control, the tolls from the bridges. But more importantly, that money would then be earmarked for important programs that would improve the lives of New Yorkers. So the fact that she did this last minute willy nilly without really consulting, like the higher ups, just did it, shows me that she can be changed. Shows me that with the right political pressure and will, she can be moved. But also, like, the fact that this is like a very easy win, right? Tax the rich, like, definitely has the support of the people, definitely has the support of a lot of state assembly members, right? But then also, like, just from a numbers standpoint, not even revenue. If you had to say how many people are you looking to piss off? Would you piss off the 33,000 millionaires in New York State, or actually New York City, the 33,000 millionaires and billionaires in New York City? Or would you piss off the owners of 3 million units that are owned and the 100,000 commercial residencies? So let's just say there's like 1 million of those owners versus 33,000. Would you rather piss off 33,000 people or a million people? I don't know about you, but I'd rather piss off 33,000 people. Especially because those 33,000 people can't afford it. But what's happening is that the other part of Zohran's proposal that he does not want to implement, but he may have to come up with the revenue, is raising property taxes on homeowners, residencies, and commercial properties by 9.5%. 9.5% sounds like a lot. Absolutely. But why is it so high? Well, the last time property taxes were raised was in the year 2002. And that was because in New York City, if anyone remembers 9/11, there was a recession in the city after that terrorist attack. It it really hurt the city's economy. People weren't coming to visit. Obviously, there's a lot of reconstruction that needed to happen. People were sick. People were getting sick. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of things going on at the city. So many more, the list goes on. But because of that, the city needed to make up for the shortfall from all of that. So in order to make up for that shortfall, the mayor at the time, Rudy Giuliani, they decided to increase property taxes. Makes sense. So because they had to raise property taxes, they knew they wouldn't do it again, seeing how it was very unpopular. People don't like when the taxes are raised. But they had to do it knowing they had to make up the revenue that they weren't getting post 9/11. We are in one of those times right now where our city needs money. The city is becoming unlivable. So the fact that he would raise property taxes would be harmful to working class folks who do own property, right? And it is like a million people, so it is like a lot of people this would affect. However, it doesn't have to be the only option. If Governor Hochul, really thought about the improvements that could be made to New York City by taxing the wealthy, right? Now remember, a lot of her donors are wealthy people, so yeah, it definitely would affect her moneymakers, but it would benefit everyone who's a recipient of the programs and the services that $12 billion is supposed to pay for. So, I mean, she's holding out. She doesn't want to fold. She wants to show she's strong. She doesn't want to be like a socialist, right? Because tax the rich is very much coming from the DSA wing of our political landscape. But even people who aren't socialists understand tax the rich is good. People don't want to live in the wealthiest city in the nation, in this wealthiest city in the wealthiest nation, knowing that wealth inequality is just exorbitant in levels of excess that haven't been seen since the Gilded Age. But Kathy Hochul still refuses to tax the rich because most of those people are her donors. She's in those circles with millionaires and billionaires. She knows that if she makes them upset, then they will not bend to her will. But she is ultimately deciding to side with 33,000 people versus a million people. So I would strongly encourage Kathy Hochul to tax the rich. There's no reason why she shouldn't. I'll also say that, this Democratic primary, if she's not taxing the rich, I'm not voting for her in a Democratic primary. I have no motivation to. If she's not, that's the one thing I would love for her to do. If she's not going to do it, she's not going to get my vote in the primary. She doesn't have a strong competitor right now, so at this point, she has yet to earn my vote. When the general election comes around, different story. But I will say, if she's not open to taxing the rich, I'm not going to be volunteering for her. I'm not going to organize for her. If she is not going to tax the rich, why am I putting my manual labor for free to get her elected in position of power when she's not even going to challenge the powerful systems that be, controlled by the millionaires and billionaires who have made life so much harder for working class New Yorkers and people who are just trying to get a break. So no, she will not be getting any of my organizing or volunteer labor for the general election or the primary. She'll get my vote in the general, but the Democratic primary, absolutely not. Nope. Has not earned it, will not get it. So that is why I'm strongly advocating for Zohran Mamdani to do whatever he needs to do to make sure Kathy Hochul taxes the rich. I think his plan has been going well so far, as much as he hasn't endorsed the primary challenger who eventually dropped out because he also hasn't, really played hardball with Kathy Hochul. He knows that does not have the upper hand, considering he's a mayor and she is a governor. But I do like that this is becoming a point of contention, not because he's forcing it, but because the political moment has risen. It's transpired to the point where now Kathy Hochul knows people want to see the rich get taxed their fair share, as we all struggle down here below. Everyone who's not up there, the 1%. The rest of us are all struggling. We're all trying to make ends meet. We're all trying to make it work. So I would love to see that happen. Hopefully happen soon. But until then, I will not be giving my full respect or my full time or full organizing energy to Kathy Hochul if she's not taxing the rich. That's it. Just one thing. That's all I ask for. But until then, nope. Not at all. So, that being said, I'm hoping it happens soon, and I trust that it will happen while Zohran is mayor at some point in time. Maybe not tomorrow, but I'm hopeful. Hey, if you like what you hear and want to learn more, then make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Or you can follow along on Instagram and TikTok. I use the same handle for both, so you can follow along at NSFD_pod.